Rocket Pro Insight makes it easy for real estate agents to help clients strengthen their offers with a verified approval, giving you the power to adjust the approval letter amount. Sign up today at rocketpro.com/real estate.
Call for terms and details. Equal housing lender. License 50 states. NMLS number 33. Verified approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions.
Start that up because we want to make sure we got that feed going. All right, and who else is here? Project Blue Book, good to see you. Jose, my man, how are you? And Excalibur, good to see you, my friend. Christopher Morales in San Diego, good to have you here. Sweet Donnie D, what's happening? Greg Moyes, thank you for coming on in. And as we continue to scroll on down, Fapster's here. And thank you, Christopher, for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate that. We're going to get going here, guys, in about, 20-some seconds. And Walter Bosley, the man, the myth, and the legend, right beside me here. There he is, right there. Anyways, let's have a great show tonight. Remember, the Super Chat is a fantastic way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Thank you, Anthony, for the Super Chat as well. Nucker, good to see you. I'm running out of time here. Stetson John, nice to have you here. Gorgeous Jenny, nice to see you. The gorgeous and talented Nicole Sackage, and here we go. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Before I bring in our guest, Walter Bosley, I want to make a quick announcement here, and this is kind of off the cuff. I was talking to a good friend of mine earlier today who was having a little bit of trouble in his life. And this man is a veteran. He's a good friend. I love this man. He means a lot to me, and he was pretty down and depressed. I want to remind everybody out there, as someone who suffers from anxiety and depression, and I'm very open about that, to always remember that you have somebody out there to talk to. It doesn't matter if it's a stranger on the other end of a crisis line or your best friend. If somebody needs help, if you have a friend who needs help, always offer your help and mean that offer and be there for that person, because you might be that voice that they need to hear to let everything know that everything is going to be okay. Also, if you are feeling any down, any depression, any anxiety where you may be getting some black thoughts, please reach out to your local hotline that you can call to get some help. There's always people out there to go to in case you need to. I'm going to keep this person's name out of it, but I know this person is watching right now, and I want to say personally, point blank, I love you, and I'm here for you, and that is not just words. That is a promise. And if we can all say that to people who are in need of mental health and a mental health break, we're all going to make this planet a little bit happier and a little bit better, and we're going to feel a little bit more successful in what we did, because helping people is number one when it comes to proving your own value in life, and no better help than reaching out when you need it. That is for sure. So that is my mental note for the day, as we got the awesome, fantastic, incredible Walter Bosley on here tonight. And Walter has, Walter, I got a big list of everything that I want to read about you, but man, I just got to tell you, this is only your second time on this show, but I am so smitten with your work and your work ethic and the way you do things that I just want to get right into it, because I really do believe, and I hold you in very high regard as one of the top researchers out there. You're always looking for a solution. You don't close any doors into the reason why you are doing what you're doing. You follow each path to the end. You got a brand new book out, which could be found on lulu.com, called Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies, which we're going to get into a little bit tonight as well. Man, thank you so much for coming on this show. I really appreciate you.
Well, I'll tell you, thanks for having me on. I enjoy our talks, and, I love doing shows because, you get the opportunity to talk with folks, and, people get to interact with you, in that live way. That's something I think we all miss over the last year and a half or so. These things are important in that way, and I've always enjoyed doing them. So thanks for having me back on.
For people who may not know you, you are someone who spent a lot of time in the intelligence agencies. You've worked behind the scenes deep in the U.S. government. You're now taking your time to invest into fighting all things strange and weird. How do you go from having this real nice government pension and chasing around weird things like you did in the alphabet agencies to doing what you're doing now?
Well, interestingly, I actually don't have a pension. I worked for multiple agencies and didn't officially retire from any one of them. So, the books and this little piddly 401k are my retirement. And that in itself is a long story, the reason I did my career the way I did it. But I wouldn't trade it at all, because the skills that, the natural abilities I had that profession developed, into, stronger skills. That gave me the tools to do what I've been doing, in the books and in researching this weird stuff. But, I was always interested in the weird stuff all my life. My mentor was an uncle of mine, one of my mom's brothers. And when he retired with 44 years in the U.S. intel community. And, he knew I was interested in weird stuff. He was interested in weird stuff. And that actually was the first foundation of us, becoming mentor and student, and then pursuing the career. He told me, hey, you're interested in these interesting, curious, strange things. And one way to find out about them is to, go into the so-called spook world. And, I found that in an indirect way, that's true. Because there's a lot of people in that world that are interested in these very things we're talking about, and we'll talk about. I had always had these interests, and I got out and I decided, well, I started a publishing company in 2002. I'm going to pursue that and finally just aim, what I learned skills-wise at this stuff. And it has paid off. And the hallmark of the background I have, anybody with my background will tell you, is, I approach this as an investigator. So, you're out there trying to collect evidence as an investigator, and same with this stuff. I just try to collect evidence, but I present all the possibilities. And if I don't have enough to draw a conclusion, I don't draw the conclusion. If it's speculation, I'm just honest about that. So,
well, I mean, that's the only way you can be. The only way you can be is straight honest about what you find out and what you're doing. In your years of doing this and going down all of these paths, have you found any patterns, Walter? Because I'm a real patterns guy. I love patterns. And it's like when I was looking at my own little nuances of what was happening to me personally, I started noticing patterns that were forming on when things would happen. Have you noticed any patterns in your research?
The two primary things that I've noticed, I talk about in my new book, as a matter of fact, which we'll get into later. My first and just the quick background so that, the viewers, listeners will see where I'm coming from on this. My first nonfiction book was about the esoteric engineering behind Disneyland. Then, of course, my next three were the Empire of the Wheel investigation that had to do with what looks like a cult, sacrificial murder, and espionage, and the airship mystery, and H.P. Lovecraft, and Harry Houdini, and just all this weird stuff. And then, of course, the Secret Missions series, which is about, all the, Juan Cabrillo, Ambrose Bierce, Sir Richard Francis Burton, Napoleon Bonaparte. And, and then I did the book, Shimmering Light, which is about my dad's experience, in the Air Force with what he claimed was what we call Roswell, getting briefed on that and his weird stuff having to do with MK Ultra in the late 50s. And then, of course, there's my book Origin, which is about the breakaway civilizations and all this stuff, which sounds superficially like, most of it's disconnected, right? However, there are two threads running through every single one of those books, whether it's the occult murder, the Disneyland book, the MK Ultra, Air Force in the 50s book, you name it, Juan Cabrillo, Napoleon Bonaparte, and those two threads have to do with this. We're told it's mythology, but this mysterious race of beings that came here from another world, whether that's a planet or another dimension, we don't know yet, called the Tuatha De Danann. And, Jacques Vallée found evidence of them and talked about them in his works in the 80s and 90s, the Tuatha De Danann. And their thread, their fingerprints run through all my books that I just laid out, as different as they seem. And the other thread it relates to this ancient goddess Hecate. Again, whether it's Disneyland, a book about 1950s Air Force MK Ultra, breakaway civilizations, occult murder, Napoleon Bonaparte, all the things I've written, the Tuatha De Danann, and this goddess Hecate and the themes and symbology associated with her run through it all. So in this weird way, as different as the subjects seem that I've dove into, they're all connected. I haven't quite nailed it down, but I've identified the threads. So with those threads come patterns. And where the Hecate is concerned, the pattern of, she's the triple aspect goddess. So the number 3 and things to do with number 3 pop up a lot in all these things. She's also venerated with the number 100. And sometimes that 100 is split into 250s. And those numbers pop up, oddly enough. It's a whole weird, I don't want to call it a Pandora's box, because for me it has not been a bad thing at all. Quite the contrary. It's been very enlightening. But one pattern I've noticed in UFOs, though, on the superficial level is, and this ties into the advice I give, is that take disclosure, for instance. It's my opinion, folks, if you want disclosure, turn your back on it. Walk away from it. Quit talking about it so much. Act like you don't care.
Why?
And you might have a better chance at getting the disclosure that you want, because there's this weird thing where it's that age-old thing where if you seem to want something too much, you're not going to get it. It's going to be coy. It's going to play hard to get. Whereas if you just act like you don't care, just disregard it. Just say, I don't care about disclosure. And my point is, maybe the people that are keeping disclosure from us, if they are, will say, hey, wait a minute. No. Okay, yeah, we'll give it to you. Because they want the attention without necessarily delivering, if that makes any sense. But that was kind of off the pattern question. Sorry.
No, I think that's great and informative. With the patterns that you are finding with the phenomena,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there, and I always use David Weatherly's name in this, or Timothy Renner, or others of that ilk, who have been able to find this invisible thread that kind of ties cryptids to paranormal, to UFOs, to ET contact, to consciousness all together. Grant Cameron has also gone down that road from a UFO aspect. Are you noticing patterns along those lines as well?
Yeah, well, that's what I think the common denominator is in all these things: the Tuatha De Danann and Hecate. I think that's that. You were talking about what is that missing thing we don't know that connects them all. In my research and from my observation experiences, that's it. Because the Tuatha are connected to UFO, they're connected to cryptids, they're connected to all the stuff. One way or another, one thing or another, through their symbols, through their imprint. I think that's why Jacques Vallée in the 80s and 90s, he noticed them. He started pulling that thread, or at least noticed the thread was there, and I think he was onto it. And I think if people will look, and not from the perspective of what popular lore, that's the problem with, in this case, I found with the Tuatha and Hecate in this case, but also with other things. You do have the folks, God bless them, that are really good students of lore. Okay, you have to remember the thing about folklore and mythology is they embellish the nugget of truth. In other words, in my view, the Tuatha De Danann, whatever they actually call themselves, whoever they actually are, wherever they're actually from, the lore that we're given is just what the people in ancient Ireland, we're being told what they experience. It's through their filter. Okay, so a lot of this lore, people say, well, no, that's gospel truth. You got to follow the lore. The labor Gellin labor. I'm getting the book wrong. The ancient Celtic book says this, and you can't. There's no margin. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. Same with Hecate. She's only associated as the goddess of witches, and actually she's way beyond. Her margins are wider than that. And so I'm a great believer in the nugget of truth perspective. Is I look at mythology, I look at lore, and I say, okay, let me look at all the different lores where these same individuals, these same beings, these same things appear, and what are the common denominators? And when you look at the common denominators between all the mythologies and the different lores, you begin to get closer and be able to see that nugget of truth. So if you look at these two threads, the Tuatha especially, and then the Hecate thread, and you look at it from that perspective, that even though you're going to read mythology, even you're going to hear a lot of opinion. There's a lot of people out there, and basically it's from an anthropological perspective, whether they're officially anthropologists or not. It's a lot of opinion, and you kind of have to politely move that aside and get to that nugget of truth. So I think underneath all that, that's what's connected or connecting all these different things. I think that's the closest. I don't want to say a unified theory, but I think that's the closest that I have found.
Walter Bosley is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I know you want to go down your topic. I want to save your book for the next half hour when we could get into your brand new book, which can be found on lulu.com, which is called Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies, which we're going to get into. I'm curious for you, do you have a favorite path that you really like to go down with these subjects? I think we all do, but what's yours?
When something suggests to me that I'm dealing with time and space, because I find time is involved in these common threads that I'm talking about. So when I see, whether it's UFOs, whether it's ghosts, whether it's explorers on a secret mission and where they're at, when I sense or see overtly that some phenomena associated with time and the space-time continuum pops up, that's the thing that really, really grabs me the most. That fascinates me.
For me, if I were to answer that question, I would say it is the tie between everything. Because I do believe that there is that invisible thread that I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. And I think that it is more intertwined than what we know, from what's on the other side after we die to cryptids chasing us down in the forest. That we can't see them, but we know they're there. Mm-hmm. You know, and to me, it's almost like those who are really connected, Walter, have this, and I say this on the show all the time, this giant beacon of blue light Kmart special that is shooting 1 billion miles into the stars. And it is literally telling everything weird and strange. Go check out that guy, or go check out that lady, you know, and mm-hmm. These are the ones you want to investigate. They've got the woo, you know? And that fascinates me, because everything that happens, from missing time to time skips to potential time travel and Bigfoot, Dogman, ghosts to little gnomes running around your garden, this is where I get the thrill.
Yeah, the interdimensionality aspect, that was the word that I was leaving out. Absolutely. When that stuff, you know, it's an old saying. This is how it got to be an old saying, and I'm, you know, however I'll paraphrase it. But the whole thing about when you look at it, it sees you, and it acknowledges, you know, it lets you know that it sees you, and it starts looking at you more closely. It is always observing. It's out there, and the minute you turn and stop and greet it and say hello to it and acknowledge it, then it engages more. And that scares people, of course. You know, I think these things we're talking about, you know.
Hi, I'm Liz Munoz, CEO of Torrid, and at Torrid, we know how hard it is to find clothes that fit great and feel super comfortable, especially if you're a bigger or curvy girl. So when we couldn't find the perfect jean, we built the perfect jean. We call it the Bombshell, and it truly does it all. It lifts, it shapes, it smooths. But the first thing you'll notice when you put them on, most comfortable jeans ever. Honestly, they're magic. So come to Torrid.com and try your first pair of Bombshell jeans today.
Got an occasion that's worth celebrating? Well, nothing says celebration like flowers from ProFlowers. Surprise your special someone with brilliant bouquets starting at just $19.99 plus shipping and handling. Yes, top quality, fresh from the farm blooms that are perfect for any and all occasions are only $19.99 for a limited time at ProFlowers.com. Don't wait till the last minute to send that anniversary or birthday surprise. Shop ProFlowers.com and make their day with a bright bouquet. See website for details.
You said time, and the other one that you mentioned, you know, death. Death is, you know, a great mystery, which is really intriguingly linked to some of this stuff, I think. You know, other folks have been talking about the whole idea of, or people having experiences with UFOs, and it's not necessarily extraterrestrial. It could be, you know, the those who have passed before us, and that there's some type of, and you know, I have found, I have suspected that maybe that might be the dimension that the Tuatha originated from, or they can move between that place we go when this dies and here. And that all these experiences contribute to whatever that experience is, you know, once we pass through that gate. I mean, you know, Hecate herself, the reason I think this is big on this is Hecate herself, she's the guard, she's the goddess of the gates to the underworld. In other words, when you die, hypothetically, you know, the idea is that you encounter her, and you don't continue on your journey, that you don't get through her. And so Hecate is all about what happens to us, a lot to do with what happens to us after we die in the physical. So There's more there that I'm not saying, but I do try to practice the admonition of Isis, the veiled Isis, who is essentially another aspect of the ancient chthonic Hecate, and that is when she lifts her veil, and reveals stuff to you, tell no one, And some people don't like that. They say, oh, no, you're supposed to share everything. And no, there's some things that are on a certain esoteric level that quite frankly, you've gone through the steps, you've turned all the keys. You essentially have put yourself in the position where those things become apparent to you, and you've kind of earned that. And you don't get the full impact of it or the full understanding of these things unless you experience the path and the unlocking and the unveiling of these things. If you just share these things with people just by telling them, it's going to be nothing. They're going to get nothing out of it. And what you're doing is you're robbing them of their own advancement. For all this talk about how, it's collective, we're just one big soul and we're all just part of this being and this single thing.
Yes.
I disagree. I think I'm
going to get you to hold on right there with the disagreement part. And when we come back with Walter Bosley, his new book, which can be found on Lulu.com, Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies. Let's find out what it's all about when we come back on Spaced Out Radio. Oh, for some reason I turned my mic down. It's like I'm the one in charge here. Let's see. That was a good first half hour. Solid, as per usual.
Yeah, time goes by when you start talking about this fun stuff, the stuff that fascinates you the most,
Little Davey Altman, Dave Altman. We call him Little Davey Altman.
The man who knows everyone.
Yeah, he says hello to you.
Oh, tell him I said hi.
Oh, he's listening in. Little Davey Altman around here. Yeah. Let's see, who else we got here? All caught up there. Hi, gorgeous Magic Maiden. How are you? Thank you for liking my shirt. My audience is trolling my shirt right now. Power words by Dave Altman right there. Blah, blah, blah. Right there. Oob to Joe's Maine. You've got aliens. Joe, I still haven't listened to that audio yet. Now, you want to go to a screwed up place in California? Our listener Joe's house. He's got some weird... He lives in the... right in the Sierra Nevadas. And I got to listen to tape, but he had some weird stuff happening at his place a couple nights ago, where there was something big walking by his barn, and he caught audio. And the minute and Joe's a big man, he's like 6'4", right? Big dude.
Okay, yeah.
And when he stood up, everything went silent.
It knew he was there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's got aliens there. He gets owls all the time. He's got the U-2 spy plane flying over because he's it's part of the flight pattern in and out of Beale. Oh yeah, he's got a lot of weird stuff happening there. Excuse me. Thursday. Sorry, I'm a day behind here. I'm on with Bigfoot Michigan Rob and Tex on Brunch with Bigfoot on Thursday at 10 a.m. Not tomorrow at 10 a.m., Thursday at 10 a.m. Thank you, Rob, for the text message. I apologize. I'm a day behind here. Thank you, Tammy. Hey, Nate Foot. How's it going, bud? What's Nate Foot up to? Mm-hmm. Let's see here. VPXM, thanks for coming on in. Annette DeLong, what is happening? Polar eclipse, we're not getting political tonight. Remember that. And I'm going to tell you right now, Walter knows I'm not going to say anything, but I am in a foul mood tonight. A foul mood. Oh, yeah. Mark Miller, my man. How you doing, buddy? Mark Miller's always tweeting about us on Twitter. Much love, Mark. Michael Smith, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Dave Rice, thanks for coming on in. Corey Christopher, thank you for joining us. Rooted in gorgeous sacredness, welcome. Simply Coco, how are you, beautiful? Please let us know what you are drinking for your show glass of the night. We'd appreciate that. She has a different beverage every time she listens, so we always like to get an update. The Jim Christie has arrived, everyone. The Jim Christie. Big thank you to Anthony, to Chris, and to Ed for the super chats. It's a great way to support what we do here on Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis. And, thank you, everybody who's tuned in so far. We're going to get going here in about 6 seconds. Walter Bosley is our guest, and let's have some fun tonight. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you along for the ride. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. You know, we have this listener named Simply Coco, before we bring on Walter. And every night she listens, she has a new beverage that she announces. So we started asking what beverage she was having tonight. So I'm going to make this public now. For every night that Simply Coco is in our chat room, I'm going to tell you what tonight's beverage is. So for tonight, apparently we're drinking a nice Merlot wine. So that is your drink for tonight. Thank you, Simply Coco. This is now a thing here on Spaced Out Radio, so we're going to check this out. Walter Bosley, by the way, is our guest tonight. This guy is an awesome researcher out of the beautiful state of California, and he is got a brand new book out called Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies, which can be found at lulu.com. I highly suggest you check this book and his many others out, because he is one of the top writers and researchers in the field of all things strange and weird. Walter, welcome back.
Hey, looking forward to this next little segment. It's always fun to get into this stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into it. Explain the Secret Missions 5.
Secret Missions 5, it's kind of what my friend Joseph Farrell sometimes calls it, his books, and that's the necessary read. It's context. The first 4 books, each one focuses on an individual historical figure. First one is Cabrillo, then Burton, Sir Richard Francis Burton, the British explorer, and then Ambrose Bierce, the American writer who disappeared. Cabrillo disappeared, by the way. We're told that he died, but it's a whole big mystery. Nobody ever found his body. And then the fourth one, of course, is Napoleon Bonaparte. And there's a lot of there's some chunks of history between these individuals and their lives, and there's a context around them, that's going on that I'm not able to fully get into in the books about the individual, figures. So this book, Secret Missions 5, was my way to step back from looking at individuals and provide that context to fill in those historical gaps. For instance, between, Cabrillo and, the couple of centuries or so between Cabrillo and Napoleon, there's a lot of interesting things that are within the realm of what I think these 4 individuals that I've covered so far we're seeking. And so this book attempts to, fill in some of that context. It also, there are questions raised in the first 4 books in the series in kind of threads not pulled. In this book, I pull some of those threads, and I try to answer some of those questions, and also provide the additional research I've done since the original books were completed. So it's a contextual book. That's really the best way to describe it. And there's just a lot of good stuff in here. I mean, I really enjoyed. I can tell. I feel like I've handled the material correctly or gone down the right path when I finally get, my printed copy and I sit there and read it like, you guys would, like a reader, and I'm liking it. I'm glad that I made the choices I made, and I'm pleased with, the typos I'll ignore. That happens, but there's not that many. I know that drives some people nuts, but it's just my way to fill in some gaps.
So the purpose of this series is a little bit different than what we normally talk about on this show. Why did you decide that you wanted to go down this historic avenue?
The weirdness in my research, dating back to 2007, at the same time I was led to the Empire of the Wheel data, the Juan Cabrillo data was popping up. And I was collecting it as I came across it, setting it aside, because the Empire of the Wheel thing was just so compelling that when I finished those 3 books, when I finished Empire of the Wheel 3, I had a good amount of stuff about Juan Cabrillo and how I think the sword of Joan of Arc fits into the mystery of his life and this weird stuff. And so I decided, well, you know what? That deserves a book. And it was only going to be the one book about Juan Cabrillo. And as I was finally working on the Cabrillo book, as I call Secret Missions 1, a couple of interesting things about Sir Richard Francis Burton popped up on my radar, and in particular, something big that I never knew. And, that led to me realizing, oh, hey, wait a minute, there's something huge here. So I pulled the threads on Burton, and I realized, okay, like Cabrillo, here's a guy who's a historical figure, and we know about some of his travels and explorations, but there's this suspicious, a very conspicuous chunk missing. And, it's looking to me like some very similar interests that Cabrillo seemed to be looking at. And so I decided, okay, the Burton book has to kind of be the follow-up, right? And then here we go. As I'm working on the Burton book, Bierce had always intrigued me, but I hadn't really done a deep dive on him. And as I'm doing the Burton book, something very specific that I didn't know that kind of potentially blew my mind about Ambrose Bierce popped up. And I realized, oh, heck, I have opened this door. I've opened this box of wonders here. And I've got a series in this because all 3 of these men, there's something about what they were doing with their lives that history doesn't go into or is hidden from history. And then, oh boy, by the time I got to Napoleon, it was a real mind blower. And so that's really how Secret Missions happened, was stuff. Each one of these books legitimately leads to the other. In other words, I didn't set out to say, okay, I'm going to do this series called Secret Missions, and then, okay, what's the next book? No. It started out as the one book, and the threads I was pulling on Cabrillo drew in something about Burton, and the threads I was pulling on Burton, here comes Bierce on the line, right? Like fishing, okay? And then there's Napoleon. And so one book legitimately led to the other. So, I'm very happy about that with my research. These threads that I'm talking about that connect everything, that's what, and I use the word legitimately a lot, in this, but that's the only word I can think of. Each book led to the other. And none of them were just because I wanted to write a book about breakaways,
Now, my curiosity with it is, why go back in history to try and create relevance for a model today?
Oh, you mean like what relevance would Cabrillo have today, or
right.
Burton or Napoleon? Well, because I suspect Juan Cabrillo was involved with the search for the lost, whatever this lost ancient civilization was, and or the lost technology of this forgotten civilization is how I put it. These are things that we're fascinated with today. Take Antarctica. Yeah, most people are fascinated with Antarctica because there's reason to suspect that there's something down there about our own past, and really you're not going to know where you're going until you really fully understand where you've been. And these men, the things that they were looking into, the things that they're connected to, are having all sorts of relevance to our times today in this way, in that we are fascinated with the lost past. And the more we dig up about it, the more we understand about who we really are as human beings, and what our true history on this planet is. So, I think that right there is a relevance to our modern times, but also the impact, some of these guys had, on our times, like Napoleon Bonaparte. I mean, that's a 4-hour discussion right there. But, just what the man did in legal systems and systems of running a municipality and stuff, these things are part of our society today. Case in point, when you go out on your street and the way houses are numbered, addresses are numbered, well, that was an idea that came from Napoleon Bonaparte. I mean, there's a minor thing. There's just a minor thing right there. Napoleon was a great admirer of the American Revolution, and what he was trying to do, and even with his mistakes and errors, was kind of apply that spirit to the people of Europe. And the reason he was so demonized was he scared the hell out of the oligarchies, the dynasties, the monarchies. He scared the hell out of them because he was this upstart who really did more to put the power in the people's hands than these guys wanted to happen. Historians credit him with being the final nail in the coffin of the feudal system in Europe, and they hated him for it. And there was a lot of slander directed. There's things people repeat today and say about Napoleon that are just not true. They're BS. They are the product of over 200 years of slander, driven by an agenda. And so, when you look at these figures, they do indeed have their impact on us today, either by what they were interested in or the ripples they left from their activities, from their lives. So, I'm a great believer in being a student of history, because, again, going back to, we can't know where we're going until we really understand, where we've been.
Very cool, very cool. Walter Bosley is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and a big thank you for coming on in with your new book, Secret Mission 5, Veiled Destinies. and just wanted to ask you about the fact that this time around, you're looking at Cabrillo, you're looking at Burton and Bierce and Bonaparte. Is there a tie between them that kind of launches us into what we are seeing happening today and potentially in the future?
It is.
Got an occasion that's worth a celebration? Well, nothing says celebration like flowers from ProFlowers. Surprise your special someone with brilliant bouquets starting at just $19.99 plus shipping and handling from ProFlowers.com. See website for details.
What am I doing with this paper shredder? Well, now that C Spire offers no contract $45 unlimited plan, I don't need to hold on to all these contracts. We're going to need a bigger paper shredder. Keep your number, skip the contract. With no contract $45 unlimited. Terms and conditions apply. See cspire.com/no contract for plan details.
I don't want to say obsession. It's a near obsession for some of them. It is their fascination with this forgotten civilization of this world, of this planet of humankind. Some call it Atlantis, some call it Lemuria. Remember the nugget of truth thing I was talking about. Whatever Atlantis really was, whatever Lemuria really was, whatever the Rama Empire really was, whatever these things really, the megalith builders, this forgotten civilization and its lost advanced technology. Each one of these men were fascinated with that, and the search for that resonated in the 20th century with certainly on the other side of that. Look how Nazi Germany was fascinated with the ancient lost secrets and such, right? And they were out there hunting for this kind of stuff, and some suspect that the technologies they were developing were inspired or motivated or based upon these lost technologies that they might have found some secrets to. And that technological development, a lot of it ended up in the hands of the United States or the Soviet Union. But as far as we're concerned, and that affects us to this day, because there's reason to suspect that there's technologies that we in the West, the United States and Canada, which has been very much a part of aerospace engineering history and all those advanced technologies, and the Europeans, some of these exotic technologies that are being developed may very well be, the developmental product of that search for this forgotten civilization, for the secrets of ancient humankind. So whatever they found, whoever that's part of the secret missions. The secret mission thing is, I think Burton came back and reported some of this stuff to both British intelligence and probably a covert, discreet, fraternal hermetic organization that he was affiliated with. I don't know which one. Bierce, I suspect he was lifelong. He had been a Treasury agent after the Civil War, and I don't think he ever stopped actually being a Treasury agent. I think he continued, and even when he disappeared in 1913, I think he was fulfilling duties, as kind of a secret agent for the government. I'm not the only person to propose that either. Whatever he might have found, that might have gone into the development of these leaps in weird technology in the 20th century, and here we are today. So this is why I've written about these guys and put this stuff out there, because their whole story wasn't told, and I think this secret missions aspect, as I call it, starts uncovering what they were really about and what they were really doing, particularly in the case of Napoleon Bonaparte. He's a different guy than people are taught in school and in movies and on TV. Not a perfect man, who is, but not the ridiculous Nostradamus Antichrist figure that he was painted to be. But again, he was a guy who was very scientifically adept. He was fascinated with the ancient world and ancient secrets and hermetic kind of if he hadn't been gone down the political military route, he would have been probably one of these philosopher scientists. So a lot of what he was about was driven by what he learned when he was in Egypt and what he suspected and what he learned from other philosopher scientists who were his mentors. And that's at the heart of what these men were really about. The biggest mystery of the four that I've covered is Bierce, because Bierce left fewer clues to the details than any of the four that I've looked at so far. Cabrillo, Burton, and Napoleon left a lot bigger clues. Bierce was the tough nut to crack. All he left was disappearing on us in 1913. So, but he left more than that when you look closely.
Dave Altman wants to know about Crowley. Do you think he was a spy?
I think Aleister Crowley was what we call, when people think of spy, they think he was, officially an agent for, in this case, the British government. I think he's what we call in that world an asset. And depending upon the use, an asset, like a double agent asset is a different thing than an intelligence collections asset. I think he was an intelligence collections asset. And essentially the guys who were the real credentialed agents of British intelligence, they used him as a source, as an asset, and they would aim him, give him certain collection tasks. Hey, Aleister, see if you can find out this for us, or get close to that guy. Tell us what you find out. So I think he was a spy in that sense. I do not think he was, the evidence is that he was not an official agent, official government agent. But yeah, I do think he was, from time to time as the task arose, a source to British intelligence.
Right on. We have about 4 minutes to go before we have to go to break here at the top of the hour. Walter Bosley is our guest. We're talking about his new book, Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies. When you look at the science of everything that's kind of gone on throughout this, do you see that science continuing to manifest as we move further into a more technological age?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, you look at human history, and unfortunately, we know for a fact the one dark age we went through, at least the European, dark age in the West, and we hope that that doesn't happen again. The problem there, very basically, without going too far down that path, but the problem there is I'll just say this, the socio-political atmosphere of our times is dangerously and tragically close to the superstitious religious atmosphere that led into the Dark Ages. So what's weird is just as we're poised, we're still in we've just started only the third decade of this new century with this amazing technology. At the same time, socio-politically, we're pushing ourselves to the precipice of potentially a new dark age. Now, would it be a completely demonization of technology kind of dark age? No. In this case, the technology is part of the nefarious tools of that kind of totalitarianism that causes a dark age. But if we fall into another dark age, we could slip, down the slope where we've advanced to this point. We slip into another dark age of some sort. We could slide back. The other side of that coin is the very technology could be the thing that enslaves us in a dark age. So
Gotcha. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is really, really deep when it comes to it. Are there any scientists out there now who are still following these practical ideas that were set out back then?
What do you mean as far as what the guys who I've covered
Yes.
were doing? Or?
Yes.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Science was greatly led by what they call philosopher scientists. Newton and all these great guys, these were philosopher scientists. These guys were they weren't just specialists. They kind of had a broad understanding. They were kind of multi-specialist talented, right? But yet they also had their that spiritual side of their existence. Many of them were alchemists and hermeticists. Well, here's the thing. From my research, here's what I found. The British Royal Societies were greatly driving science, the profession of and the pursuit of science in the West, okay? And in 1830, when Burton was a young man, a kid, actually, in 1830, there was a turn in the Royal Society. The philosopher scientists were finally outnumbered by the materialist, what I called the bean counting technician scientists. Okay. And these guys, from what I've read, hated these philosopher scientists and their approach. So they finally outnumbered the philosopher scientists and they took over the Royal Societies, and thus they took over science. And at the same time, you had Darwin with evolution, and the atheists really loved that. So at the same time, in the mid-19th century, you had the atheistic technician bean counting scientists finally got the power, and that's what's been driving science since then. So what they've lost, most of them, or if not all of them, but most of them, is that wonder, is that unifying that comprehensive understanding that made the philosopher scientists much more brilliant than these guys we have today.
Right. Walter, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. We have Walter Bosley coming on, and we're going to get into some UFOs. We're going to get into some missing people. I know that one really stirs them up, the missing people. How do people just vanish? We'll get into it next on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're back. Missing people next, man.
Cool.
Yeah. Had a little bit of a troll attack there during your speaking, so that's why I seemed a little distracted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me. Do tell.
There's one show out there who is kind of come up with a conspiracy theory that I buy my followers.
Oh, Jesus.
And so one of their trolls has come in here saying that that I deserve to be shut down because I apparently buy my followers.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I finally have a policy with the trolls, for instance, the comments on my videos, I guess these guys don't understand it, but I have to approve them all. So, at least in the comment section, now live chat's a different thing, as we both know, but in the comment section, these guys don't see the light of day. I just trash can. Because there's a difference between, I'll approve comments where somebody disagrees with a conclusion or an idea of mine. I have no problem with that. But a troll, people that are trolling you, you don't owe them anything, and the trouble they can cause is really half of why they're doing it. Because, you know how trolls are. They want to distract from the conversation you're having, or, somebody's got a hair up their backside about you personally or something. So, or if it's not personal, somebody gets an idea about the community in general, and so they go on a crusade. That's another thing that some of these trolls, they're crusaders. They're going to, I guess, clean things up or whatever, or run out the people that they disapprove of. Yeah, so it's interesting, these people. But it was worse a few years ago, I think, some years back. I think more and more, guys like us have just been, just don't feed the trolls, as they say. And, now when I'm doing my live chat, the moderators, the guys I've given the wrenches to, they're great at just
my wrenches are good too. You know what the funny part about it is? Like, comes in here and says you only got 150 people watching live. How do you have almost 13,000? You know what? The majority of our listeners are sleeping right now.
Yeah,
and they subscribe because they watch the podcast.
Yeah, I get most of my views
during the day.
When people watch the recorded thing later. So, what kind of an idiot thinks that you're going to get all those subscribers you have all watching live? I know very few people who do what we do that they have more than 100, give or take, in their live chat at a time. There's people out there that just it's the folks who just they want to be negative, they want to say something negative.
And the funny part about it is, Walter, I'm the kind of guy where if you have a question, come ask me.
Sure.
Why the fuck do you have to troll? Come ask me. If you have a question about how we got our subscribers, which we've done straight up, we haven't bought any subscribers. I don't even know how to do that. Okay? Just come up and say, hey, how did you get there? We can tell you. I can tell you that our numbers have increased since we brought in Gary, our YouTube guy, who's made a lot of changes behind the scenes for SEOs and everything in order to improve our stuff on YouTube. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a YouTube guy. I know Gary is, and that's one of the reasons, right? I can also tell you that having people like Lou Elizondo, and you can ask the guys from UFO Garage this, when you bring on Lou Elizondo, that usually brings in close to 500 subs. Right there.
There you go.
Right there.
Hey, I got a new microphone, and I noticed, the correlation is I've got several new subscribers just simply since getting a new microphone.
Yeah.
And, but also getting the new microphone, that's why I've increased the recorded content because, wow, I've got this great new microphone finally. And I don't have to put up the backdrop. I just put some slides on there. I write something up, and I've got, a nice little, 30-minute video or something. And just simply getting the microphone allowed me to do that. And so these people need to realize that just simple technical improvements like you're talking about, that does make a difference. And then, of course, the more people hear about you, and the longer you're around, the more people are going to hear about you. You've been doing this how long now?
6 years.
Yeah. I mean, after 6 years, people are going to find you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, one of those nights. Glenn John McEnroe, how you doing? How's your Wimbledon titles? Let us know. And Jennifer P., your check is in the mail because I do pay people to watch me, apparently. And let's see here. Who else?
Oh, I see the comments now finally here. Okay, yeah. I was clicked on the wrong tab. Hello to everybody who is here from my channel and
right on.
Other places I've been. So.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there. I want to say a big thank you to Ben, to Jarhead, Andrew, Anthony, Chris, and Ed for the amazing super chats. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Valhalla. Valhalla is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Want to continue on tonight with Walter Bosley. He's a great author, has a brand new book out called Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies, which can be found on lulu.com. You want to check it on out. We really appreciate you, Walter, coming on into Spaced Out Radio tonight once again.
Hey, it's good to be here. I'm enjoying this.
You have an incredible interest in missing people, and I know you follow the work of David Paulides quite closely. Why has that attracted you?
Well, just the topic itself is very intriguing. I mean, I think very naturally. But what really got me buzzing on the Paulides stuff, his research, is when I saw his cluster map, his map of North America, where all the biggest clusters of the missing people are. It was startlingly near identical to a map that I've had for several years, since 2009, that a gentleman named Seshari created for me, using topographical maps and his reading of geomorphology. And what he identified were stress line gravity anomalies where the telluric current flows. People will call these ley lines. Technically, they're not ley lines, but that's what they're popularly called. And, when I compared those maps, immediately I realized, wait a minute, there's a correlation here. There's something going on with the geomagnetics and telluric current and the phenomena that surround this world grid and these energies flowing through the planet, and what these people are experiencing, what's happening to them. Now, clearly there are cases where, when they find the people who are deceased, and in some cases very gruesome things have happened to them, still the more far out wild aspect of what could have happened to them, again, has a potential link to this world grid phenomena. But certainly the people that, they never found them. Now, whether they slipped into another dimension, which is
Raising Cane's is celebrating 25 years. That means 25 years of serving over 2.5 billion cook-to-order chicken finger meals. And 25 years of saying drive-thru rhymes. Lots and lots of times. Oh, and 25 years of the same mascot. Okay, different mascots with the same name. And 25 years of serving our communities. Thanks for making us your chicken fix since way back in '96. Raising Cane's, 25 years, one love.
Hi, I'm Liz Munoz, CEO of Torrid. And at Torrid, we know how hard it is to find a bra that looks great and feels super comfortable, especially if you're a bigger or curvy girl. So we have spent the last 2 years building the perfect everyday wire-free bra with the belief that it should feel as good as it looks. It gives all the support and shape you'll ever need without any of the wires. Honestly, it's the first bra you'll forget to take off when you go to bed. So come to Torrid.com and try our life-changing wire-free bra today.
Popular possibility, or whether they were disoriented in particular spots, so disoriented that maybe they fell into a collapsed aquifer or some deep cavern, or wandered into a cave with dangerous wildlife, what have you. It might be that something to do with the phenomena has something to do with their disappearance, and I can't shake that notion when I see these two maps together. And to add on to that, I just very recently saw this map that the U.S. National Park Service endorses, which is a map showing all the cave and cavern systems in continental U.S. and North America. And it also, as other researchers have pointed out, it also is startlingly identical to the Paulides cluster map. So this is why it's so fascinating to me, because there seems to be so much out there lending credence to the idea that there's something weird going on here with these missing people.
Now, David has put together all of these clusters that have kind of come together. Number one, I believe, is in Yosemite National Park.
Yeah,
Number two in North America is North Vancouver in the Cascade Mountains. And, that's where all these people just seem to disappear without a trace, just vanish. Now, this leads to Joe's question that he had just a few minutes ago in regards to, do you think that a lot of times maybe some of these people are going either backwards or forwards?
In time or space or
either?
Both? Well, it's intriguing when you read the story about the stories, the multiple cases where, a child is lost, was last seen at one elevation, and then 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 feet higher is where they're found within a period of time that there's no way they went straight up, right? But there wasn't enough time for them to walk all the miles, so how did that happen? What the heck's going on here? And, the cases where people just completely disappear without a trace, have they slipped in to some other dimension? It depends upon your personal view of reality, of how you look at physical reality, as to whether you'll be open to thinking about and discussing these things. But folks like us tend to be open, to this interdimensional possibility, and until the person is found and alive and rescued, or until, unfortunately, you find their remains, there's just all the intriguing, question and mystery surrounding this, so that you can't really deny that as a possibility. You can't. And again, the time factor is part of it as well. You go back to, you have a child who, thousands of feet of elevation in a very short span of time. Well, how did that happen? Did they step into a particular configuration of granite? The paramagnetics of that stone. Did they step into a particular configuration and get transported? What was perhaps gravity somehow affected or lessened? Until we know how it happened, we can only guess. And the evidence that we have at hand just leads to the more fantastical speculations.
Solar Warden is asking, well, first off, comment, you're the man, Walter. And then follows up by saying, what are your thoughts on the picture Dr. Bruce Maccabee's wife took in the forest while hunting? The one they sent to Verizon, and even Verizon couldn't explain.
I don't think I'm familiar with that.
It's on the back end of Missing 411 Hunters, and it really looked like, do you remember the movie Predator?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now I know what you're talking about, because
Yeah.
I saw that documentary. That's fascinating. Well, I mean, I have to admit, I'm open to these things. I personally think that there are multiple dimensions. So to me, it's logical that there is an aspect of interdimensionality. And I think if you understand or have some type of command over interdimensionality, that with that possibly comes the ability to camouflage oneself using this. Now, take out interdimensionality. If there is a being or a species that has some hyper ability with natural camouflage, maybe that's what's going on there. Maybe it is a technical thing, like as depicted in Predator, where it was, technology that they wore. We know that things like that have been developed in our, by some labs pursuing such things, right? So could it be something, human developed that somebody's playing around with out there? These are the possibilities. The one that excites me the most is the idea of this interdimensionality, but that could not be it. It could be, it could be this camouflage thing, be it technology or.
It's easy to describe a lot of these missing people, Walter, as people who are being kidnapped, okay, and taken at gunpoint, knife point, whatever the situation may be. However, you get situations, and I always like to use this one from one of David Paulides' books that he did of Missing 411 Canada, which was three girls were out horseback riding, and one decided to take a shortcut, and the other two decided to go the other way. And the one who took the shortcut on her horse disappeared. But not only did she disappear, the horse disappeared with her. And what traps me about this when I think about it is it's one thing for a child to go missing, but a 1,200-pound horse, that's another big dilemma that we have to think about. And so it makes me wonder, are a lot of these people, and I know this is hypothetical theory, going into another timeline where they don't even know that they've entered that other timeline, and when they arrive, everything is normal, yet on our timeline here, they're gone?
Or have they slipped into an alternate dimension of our same reality, so that they're in the same place, they encounter the other dimensional versions of the people they know in this dimension. So are they living in that other dimension, maybe sensing something is slightly different, but because they recognize everybody and the situations and themselves, are they now living as if they don't realize they've disappeared from that original dimension? That's a thought that, I've had from time to time. But then there's also you talk about abducted. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. If it's not some type of animal getting them and taking them away, in this case, the horse was gone with her. But you could have, let's not forget the possibility that there could be a wilderness area is a good place for a psychopath who's adept at the outdoors to abduct victims, right? So there is that possibility, the human possibility. And when you go back into history, and there's all these fairy tales and stories about the others who abduct people to their fairyland or their dimension or whatever, some people could say, well, that was just a comforting way that parents whose children were taken by creepy people, that was just a comforting way for them to deal with it. That's a possibility too. However, you also have to consider the possibility that there are these stories where if you go out into the woods and the wilderness areas, there's those others who share this dimension with us. They're not us. They're these other beings. And there is story after story where they'll take you to their world if they like you and keep you there. The classic story of, the changeling child, where, the fairy people see a human baby that they like, and they'll take that human baby and leave one of their own, in its place, thinking, oh, hey, that's a fair trade because, I want, the human baby, so to speak. So again, going back to what I said earlier, the nugget of truth. Could there be a nugget of truth in these stories of these other beings who abduct? And that's why I consider that possibility. Again, what if there is some being that possesses an interdimensionality as part of their existence and their understanding of nature, and what if they're taking these people? That's something I think that has to be considered. You do have the stories of the little kids saying, well, the weird hairy man or wolf person or whatever took me into the berry patch and fed me berries and protected me and was very nice to me. I mean, there's one story like that, and I think there's a couple of other stories like that. But also there's, the stories where when the child is found, they're found like they've been, laid down for a nap and they're safe. And they talk about seeing, this other person or this other being or this creature that was nice to them. So does this have to, do all of these stories have to be just the imaginations of these? Are these children all imagining the same thing, or is the thing happening in one way or another? There's an interesting story I heard recently. I don't know, and I want to credit where I heard it. I don't know if you're familiar with Mr. Ballin, the former Navy SEAL. He's got a YouTube channel, and he talks about these things. But he told a story recently about a kid who steps away from the family, and her aunt, a particular aunt, says, "Oh, hey, come with me." So she follows this aunt, and this aunt takes her to a cave. Her Aunt Kathy or whatever takes her to a cave, and the cave is scary. It's got spiders. And then Aunt Kathy starts acting really weird and angry when the kid wants to leave. And when the kid gets found and meets up with the real Aunt Kathy, who's been with the family the whole time, looking for the girl, you wonder, okay, what was this other being? Who was this other person that was able to look like the child's Aunt Kathy? What's going on there? If the details of the story as we know it are accurate and true. Sometimes it happens that we hear these really interesting stories, and then when people take a closer look, you realize, oh, okay, a little bit of that was an urban myth that kind of got built on something that actually, isn't what happened. So you've got to be careful with these stories. You have to be honest with yourself with them. But I'm very much open to the idea, the possibility. I always consider that. That's part of the things I consider, that there's someone or something out there that is taking these people, these children, or slipping through a veil. You've got these dimensions, and there's openings, and as they slide past, here's the opening, and you just step through at the wrong or the right time, depending, and there you are. In that other dimension. Now, is it a replica of the one you're in, so you don't really notice that it's happened? Or is it completely different? Is it the past? I mean, are you stepping into the Cambrian or the Paleozoic era, and there's scary monsters, giant mosquitoes, whatever? Or are you stepping into what we would conceive as the future, which then gets into all time is on a certain level is happening all at the same time, like this big supernova of time and space and activity. And so therefore we can reach the future. The issues with how do you get into a future that hasn't happened if you're making it happen is, if it's the linear aspect, notwithstanding, is that what's going on? I don't know. Well, I don't pretend to know.
But the thing is, if we pay attention to what the First Nations have been telling us for centuries, this has been going on. These portals or these dimensions or these creatures have been taking people into inner Earth or into different timelines when some have come back and reported these tales, yet we're not listening to them.
What you just said, they take them into the inner Earth, and that's why this map I saw of the cavern systems looking virtually identical to Paulides' map of the missing clusters, that the first thing I thought is, oh my God, there's the first real evidence that allows you to legitimately put on the table that there are some people or some beings or whatever subterranean that are taking these people. I mean, when you look at the maps, I'm sorry, it's there. Where these clusters are, it's where these major cavern systems are. And, in enough of my other research, I've heard these stories and seen this lore, and exactly what you said, the native nations here and up there and all over, wherever you go. You're right. They have these stories. They absolutely have these stories in these places that we're talking about where, these people turn up missing, where they disappear. In these places, in my book, Veiled Destiny, Secret Missions 5, in Chapter 8, I talk about this very thing we're talking about. And Paulides mentions in his book, Western U.S. and Canada, about the Miwoks when he's talking about Yosemite. So I took a closer look at the Miwoks, and I'll be darned, there it is. The Miwoks were talking about these kinds of weird things happening in and around Yosemite. That had to do with people disappearing and horrible things happening to them for centuries. I mean, it's there in the lore. It didn't just start once Yosemite National Park is opened by the United States, right? No, this stuff was going on long before, any Americans or Spanish or anyone set foot in the Yosemite Valley. So, and the stuff I found was pretty creepy. It resonates with two of the cases that Paulides and others have talked about in Yosemite, where one particular woman, the forensics concluded that she didn't just slip off a cliff where the falls are. They said she had to have been projected off of that cliff, and not just like she just jumped or was pushed. They're saying she was like really pushed off the top of that, and again, the forensics claims that after she fell and it cracked her skull and some of her brain was scattered, she was sexually assaulted after the fall. That's how it's reported. And there's another case where a guy's was missing. He turns up missing, and then they find various body parts in different areas. Now, some people say, "Oh, that's an animal," but then when you look at the Miwok legends and stories, there are things in there that could explain both cases, except for the sexual assault part on the body. That's wow. I don't know what to say about that. That might be explained by the the psychopaths that I mentioned.
Very
before.
True.
But
very true, Walter. I'm going to get you to hold on right there because I know we have some audience questions that are building up for you. We want to get them in the bottom of the hour when we come back. Walter Bosley talking missing people, missing 411. Are these people being taken by unknown creatures? Are they walking into portals, into different dimensions, into different timelines? This is all part of the mystery that we talk about here on Spaced Out Radio. Check out Walter's brand new book on Lulu.com, Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies, part of a great series. Make sure you check it on out. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio when we return right after this. All right, Walter, I'm just going to take a quick bathroom break. I'll be right back, okay?
Yeah, I'm going to get some water.
All right, I'm going to put you on mute here, okay?
Ready?
All right. Be right back, guys.
Raising Cane's is celebrating 25 years. That means 25 years of serving over 2.5 billion cook-to-order chicken finger meals. And 25 years of saying drive-thru rhymes. Lots and lots of times. Oh, and 25 years of the same mascot. Okay, different mascots with the same name. And 25 years of serving our communities. Thanks for making us your chicken fix since way back in '96. Raising Cane's, 25 years, one love.
I'd like to taste the real Italian coffee, please.
What is the real Italian coffee?
L'espresso. In a capsule?
Blended by the masters.
Yes, Lavazza Espresso Italiano. A rich, full-bodied taste made from the finest Arabicas by the masters of espresso. Lavazza.
All right, I am back. And thank you. Thank you to the work of the moderators for taking care of that person. Really appreciate that. Mike Palumbo, good to see you. Mark Rademacher, how are you? Thanks for coming on in. River Dogma, welcome to our channel. Thank you for coming on in. Thank you for the great super chat there, Mark. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm way behind on questions right now, guys. Okay, I'm like right now about 16 minutes behind on the questions. I will try and get them all in. Just do me the favor, put them in capital letters so that way I can get them to Walter when he comes back. And when we come back to the show, that would be wonderful. Hi, gorgeous Ronnie and Jeff Elder in our Spreaker chat. And thank you, guys. Stu Gerson, what's going on? Elaine M. All right, big thank you to Jarhead, Ben, Mark, Andrew, Anthony, Chris, and Ed for the super chats tonight. We really do appreciate it. And thank you to all of our great listeners tuning on in tonight and our new listeners. Here we go, the second half. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate all of you tuning us on in. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/ Facebook.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Walter Bosley. He's one of the top researchers, in my opinion, in this field that we call the weird and strange and the woo. And we are talking missing people right now. Walter has a brand new book out, if you want to check it on out. It's called Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies, which can be found at lulu.com. Walter, welcome back.
Hey. Ready for this round.
I got a bunch of questions from our audience, if you don't mind, my friend.
No, hey, let's do it.
All right, let's start off with Ivy. Have you guys heard the phone call recording from one of the victims in Politis's Missing 411 where it sounded like he was drowning? If so, what are your thoughts? Now, I haven't heard this. Have you heard this?
No, this doesn't sound familiar. I know somewhere out there, I don't know if it's connected to Politis research, but there's a video out there where a guy has called his wife, and at the moment of his disappearance, he's being followed by somebody, and then, of course, the call ends. That one I've heard, but I haven't heard about this one where someone's drowning.
No, me either. VPXM is asking, is it possible some black programs created weird things happening on the other side of our world?
Sure, yeah, that's what I'm, with the kind of exotic technologies that we've heard rumor of and have reason to suspect, particularly during the World War II era, particularly where Die Glocke, the legendary Nazi bell issue is concerned, with all, the reported weird side effects. Yeah, and then, of course, there's also, what goes on at the Collider, CERN, right? Some people think that, when CERN got genned up or gets genned up, weird things happen. Yeah, so absolutely, I think certain technologies could very well be part of this.
YJ is asking, do you think any of this ties into the Mandela effect?
Again, going back to CERN, I know people who think that CERN definitely ties in to, what we call the Mandela effect. That gets, a lot of times, though, that gets slapped onto people just misremembering things. So you got to make sure you're careful with the particular instances. There is Mandela effect stuff, but then there's people misremembering. But yeah, I think between CERN and between this other thing I'm talking about, where you have two dimensions that are not exactly alike, but that we would each have doppelgangers or doubles in that other dimension, right? And all the people we know in the basic situations. Maybe people are slipping through, the holes in the veil as those things are passing or crossing. And in the one dimension, this famous guy, died on that date, but in this other dimension, he didn't die until 3 years later. And you're coming from that first dimension. There you go. Mandela effect. You're like, wait a minute, that's not how it happened. And you don't realize you're doing it. That's why you're confused and wondering what's going on here, because you don't realize you've slipped into the alternate dimension, hypothetically.
Have you ever had anything like that happen to you personally?
Oh, yeah.
Give me an example.
I was in Iraq in November of 2003, and I was doing my job, myself and two other guys, and we're driving around in this car. It's after midnight. It's in the back streets of Mosul, and we're doing our thing. And this pickup truck comes speeding up, cuts us off. Like 8 or 9 guys barrel out of the back. They surround the car. They're locked and loaded with their AKs on us. And time seemed to just slow down. Inside, I just calmed out. Time seemed to really slow down. And nothing, we got out of it. It turned out to be the new Iraqi police force, and the good guys, and we showed our IDs, and everybody chuckled nervously, and we went on about our business. However, because of weird things that happened after that,
I think your puppies want some treats.
Oh, you hear that?
Yeah.
No, my kid's coming home from work late, and so
they're all excited to see him.
Yeah,
they
awesome. They sing like that. But
awesome.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's all right. We were enjoying the tune.
Things were happening because of all the weird stuff. I'll be honest, I seriously wondered, were we because these guys were scared that we were. I mean, it's been years. I can tell you, we were dressed. We were wearing keffiyehs and jalabiyas. We were dressed like Saudis. We were in an unarmored vehicle. We were doing spook stuff, okay? And I'll leave it at that. And so we're pulling this stuff off. They don't know that they haven't stopped a car that's got explosives on it, right? So we're pulling our costumes off, and we're showing our IDs. And they realize, oh, okay, it's Americans doing whatever they're doing. And I wondered if, did it actually go bad? Did, let's say, that dimension I was in when I live in that life where I went to Iraq, did the reason time slowed down and I calm out, did I actually, unaware, unconscious that I was doing it, did I actually, at the moment these guys pulled the triggers and gunned us down to death, not knowing who we were, did we skip to another track, an alternate track of the same, or what appeared to be the same reality, and that's the one I'm in now? Have I been in that other dimension since that night in November of 2003? Because there's been things in our world and just things about my life that have just seemed off from what they were before that night. So that's what, it might be just a thought experiment, but I've wondered, would I have actually, been gunned down that night had I not jumped into the other, or did the me who was in that other, or this other possibility is, were we indeed gunned down? Is this, did I die that night, and am I in some type of underworld or hell? There were times where I wondered that if I had died and I was in some type of Hades or hell. Particularly when things sucked, I wondered about that. But I seriously wondered that. And
right.
So, so if you ask, do I think, I think it's very possible that it did happen to me.
I had it happen once a couple of months ago, and it involved David Weatherly.
Okay.
And so David was coming up that night on the show, and I was researching him that day, okay, because the one thing I hate with David, because it's really weird, I stress out every time he's on the air because I just idolize the guy so bad, and I want to be on my best and present new information. But when you're interviewing the same person every couple of months, sometimes topics get re-talked about, and re-talked about, and re-talked about, and rehashed.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I am, I believe it was either on Instagram or Facebook, and I see this book cover of David Weatherly on the bottom, and it is about sea monsters of the Great Lakes. I'm like, man, that's something new. We're going to talk about this tonight. So I call up Dave before the show, and I'm like, hey, buddy, how you doing? And we're going to talk about your new book, Sea Monsters of the Great Lakes. And he goes, yeah, that's a great topic. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to this. We've never really done this topic before. I've always wanted to do it. Couldn't find anybody. I'm really glad you did this book. And he goes, well, Dave, the problem is I've never written that book. And I went back to look for the posts, cannot find the posts whatsoever. And I know it was him. I know the picture, like I can see the picture of the book in my head. I'm not going to screenshot it because it's David Weatherly. He always has some weird, strange book coming out every 3-4 months. And I didn't even question it. Can't find it. And I was like, no, dude, I just saw this on your social media. And he was like, haven't written it. He goes, it's a good topic. He goes, I think I'm going to do that one now. He goes, it's going to take some research. He goes, that's a great book. He goes, but no, I haven't written it.
Now, that might have been a source on the other side of whatever, reaching out through you to him to get him to write that book. It's interesting, the brand of this that you're talking about, the thing you see and then you can't find, that happened with the new book. With Cabrillo, I had done some research a couple of years ago, and I had gone, to the sources. I remember the sources talking about a specific thing, a point that I wanted to put in the book, and then when I went back to it, I couldn't find the link, and I did a thorough search, and I couldn't even find that specific data again. And I was looking with the same searches and the same books, and it was like I saw it once, and now it's gone. And so I could only present it in the book in that speculative way, because what I had to back it up is gone. It's missing, and I know I saw it. And where did it go? Where was I when I saw it? Right? Was I in another dimensional mindset?
Owner is asking, as we move on here, is it inner Earth or dimensionally different space that abducted people were taken to?
It could be both. It could be either. It could be there. There could be someone in this subterranean realm that's taking people. There could also be, some interdimensional issue going on. It could be, just like with UFOs. They can be a lot of it's advanced secret technology, but it could also be extraterrestrials. It could also be something supernatural, paranormal, whatever, what have you. It could be all of them to one degree or another. Same thing with this, I think.
Kevin is asking, Walter, how many adults would a 5-year-old child be able to feed as the main course at dinner? Oh, this is Kevin. This is his strange sense of humor. I don't think many, and the Queen is definitely not a reptilian. Definitely, so just ignore that question. Sometimes they sneak through. And I'll just wipe the egg off my face with that one right now. Thanks, Kev. Appreciate that. And he makes a good meme, though. He does make a good meme. But, did you follow the case of that young boy in North Carolina who went missing for 2 days and then said he was with a big teddy bear?
I've heard of cases like that.
Yeah.
I've heard cases like that, which people are attributing possibly to, Bigfoot or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's several of those stories like that out there.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's something that, not specifically if he called it a, big teddy bear, but that idea of some type of gentle or friendly beast being or whatever that, takes the child and then is protective and even feeds the child in some cases. That's a story that is out there. So is it happening?
I don't know. Let's go to 11's question. Are the Tuatha De Danann more likely grays or more like traditional fairies? Do they change as our perception changes?
They're more like, and I wouldn't say they're not like grays. They're not grays at all. And when you say traditional fairies, neither are they tiny little sprightly figures with little wings, flitting around the Christmas tree. But the other part of that question, could you bring that up the way it was worded?
Sure. I just got to... do they change as our perceptions changes?
Yes. That's where what's called glamoury comes in, and that's their ability they camouflage themselves. This is according to the lore and the such, and also some reports and stories that they have this ability to mess with your perception of what they look like, so that you see, usually you see something more pleasing, less frightening, or it could go the other way. They could make themselves look frightening, to scare you off, that kind of thing. But it's a thing that they, according to the lore, that they have this ability, this perceptive camouflage, you'd call it. So, but the Tuatha Dé Danann are, they look like human beings. They, according to, all the stories, and they're normal human size. And they apparently have this ability to make you think that they look different than they do.
Where are they located?
The lore is that they lived openly among the ancient Irish until an old enemy of theirs came and looked like allied together with other human groups, and they left. They departed, and some of the stories say they went underground. So this feeds into the stories and tales that there's this other civilization of beings living in the subterranean realm. And that's connected with the Tuatha Dé Danann stories. So they could be underground. They could move in between dimensions. I mean, it is possible that they did come from another physical planet. That is possible when you read the original. The anthropologically obsessed will tell you, oh no, the Tuatha were just, tribes from the Mediterranean, and their ships arrived on the beaches. And when the lore very specifically does not say it's ships arriving on beaches, it's something, they came from the sky and landed on a mountaintop. It wasn't a boat landing on a beach, but there's never a shortage of the humanist anthropology types who want to explain everything away with mundane anthropology.
B. Hoff is asking, how often do you hear accounts of goblins going after children or people?
As often as any of you guys hear about that. I mean, a few years ago, you had these videos of the little duendes, right? That creep people out in Latin America, I think specifically Mexico. But, so, I see this as much as you guys do. So that's part of the mix.
Hi, I'm Liz Munoz, CEO of Torrid. And at Torrid, we know how hard it is to find a bra that looks great and feels super comfortable, especially if you're a bigger or curvy girl. So we have spent the last 2 years building the perfect everyday wire-free bra with the belief that it should feel as good as it looks. It gives all the support and shape you'll ever need without any of the wires. Honestly, it's the first bra you'll forget to take off when you go to bed. So come to Torrid.com and try our life-changing wire-free bra today.
Academy Sports and Outdoors has you covered from head to toe with the best from Adidas. From balls to backpacks and apparel to footwear, get a fresh Adidas look and gear up to get back to sports with Adidas at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
I mean, whoever and whatever these beings are, and they, of course, are tied to the subterranean world as well. This is where you get, by the time we get to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, of the Disney film, well, where do they go? Hi-ho, they go off to their mines where they're, tapping away and mining. And what that is just the modern result of age-old stories of these little men who, live, in the subterranean realm, the caves, the caverns, the hollow earth, if you will. And that's their realm. That's where things like the Seven Dwarfs come from when you trace it back. And that goes also back to Hephaestus, who is the one who makes the armor in the underworld. He makes the shield and armor for Achilles. Achilles' mother, asks him to make this for him, and this is in the Iliad. And they are Tubal-Cain is another figure, another name, and they are associated with those figures, and they're underworld figures. meaning, if we take it literally, it's the subterranean realm. Who knows what all is really down there?
All right. Joey is asking, any opinions or thoughts on the supposed Manchester Punisher in the UK?
Pusher? Manchester Pusher?
Pusher, sorry.
I don't know. I don't know that as such. Is there some other way to identify the Manchester Pusher?
Let me just see here. We'll find out about it. Apparently, it's a serial killer that haunts the city's canals.
It's the first I've heard of it, but I'll look into it because serial killer cases are kind of fascinating to me.
That is kind of interesting.
Very much so.
Our booking team, Dirty Filth, let's find somebody who can speak about that. That sounds like a pretty good show. Jim is asking, when you were in Iraq, did you see any UFOs?
No. One of the most interesting experiences, well, other than that one I described, the weird experience, but of some of the interesting things I saw there was the ziggurat of which, go online. You got a lot of the soldiers taking pictures of the big ziggurat. I've got pictures of myself standing on top of that, and you can see the big canyon crevasse, the big crack in the ground way out there where the ancient city of where the ruins are located. And that's a very controlled access site. Not even all scientists are allowed to go there. And I was that close, standing on the ziggurat. And it was that day in particular that I first really thought, hey, wait a minute. If you know ancient history, I know this is where the cities are, of course, but you could look at it another way. All the places, it seems like all the places where there were major battles in that initial Iraqi war have their association to the ancient world. So the conspiracy theory suspicion that we were over there to get our hands on lost technology of the ancient civilization, maybe there's something to that. And that thought really hit home when I was standing there that day on the ziggurat of So, that, but no UFOs.
What about the idea of, you get a lot of these reports from military people, and I know Jody Cook has taken a few of these cases on with the North American Dogman Project about these Anubis-type creatures that are allegedly walking around in Iraq, Syria, and the Middle East. Have you heard about these? So we got about 90 seconds.
I've heard the Dogman stuff in a different context, but I've not heard about it in the Middle East. That's really interesting.
Yeah, you might want to talk to Jody Cook about that, because we actually did a show about that a couple years ago. And after the show, he got a few emails from soldiers over there who said they watched these 8-10 foot tall Anubis-type creatures with the big scimitar or those big swords, those Arabic-type swords that are kind of...
Scimitar, yeah.
Yeah, and they were, literally cutting people in half.
That's wild. That's kind of like those stories of the cannibalistic giants in the caves of Afghanistan.
Yeah, it goes along that. Do you buy into those stories?
Oh, I don't know. Unfortunately, our sources of them tend to be that, that creepy pasta kind of spooky tale that you hear on the internet. Whereas I have no problem with the idea that there were giant, beings in the past. I'm very careful about the stories, those kinds of stories. As fascinating as they are, there's reasons to question.
Absolutely. And we do have to question everything. And Walter, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour, and we're going to continue with audience questions and very insightful commentary from Walter Bosley tonight. You can check out his brand new book, Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies. It can be found at lulu.com. That's LULU.com. And in hour 3, we're going to head to Vancouver, join the shift, go right across Canada, and the news, thought of the day, lots more coming in hour 3. We're clear.
The dogs were singing again.
Oh, that was awesome, man.
I didn't know you could hear that. This microphone, like, do you hear my fan at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it's very faint.
Oh, okay. Because usually people don't hear it. But I'm amazed because I've got the background, I've got the door closed, and they're around the corner in another room. But that just goes to show you how a dog's voice will carry, right? There's a reason nature designed them that way, to be heard.
Oh, yeah.
And including through of course, our walls are what? Wood frame and stucco, really. So white, drywall. So, of course, you're going to hear it. But we have a dog who is mostly blind, kind of a rescue dog. And he's the loudest singer, and he gets the other ones going. So whatever got him going, I think they probably came in from work. But he gets going, and then the other three join in.
I always find it funny with my German Shepherds. If I pull into the driveway and they see me get out from the truck, they will start barking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be like, "Quiet, guys, quiet!" And they don't stop until I open the door. And I'm like, "Come on, guys! Like, give it a break. Have you not seen me before?"
They're announcing to everybody in the castle that you are home.
Right?
Yeah. One of the dogs we have is a Lhasa Apso poodle mix.
Yeah.
He's like it's funny, he's like a bulldog body with a cute little round head and kind of fluffy fur. And he's a tough guy. He's a sweetheart. But those dogs have a particular, it's not really a caterwaul, but it's kind of like that. It's not a howl. It's not a bark. It's this weird undulating, and it's unique. And he's kind of the alpha because he's the one now that we've had the longest of the dogs we have. And we did a little research, and that's part of what the breed does is they're announcing when the master is coming, or if somebody's like approaching the house. That's how they announce it. They let everyone in the house know, and even those of us in the house will come in and he'll do a little song for us. If you're patting the heads of the other dogs, he'll sing a little song for you. So you'll go over and pat him on the head too. And it's, I love these little idiosyncrasies these dogs have.
For sure. Hey, I got to quickly show one of my sponsors, Mighty Moose Beard Oil, and you go to MightyMooseBeard.com. And, the one thing that we've all learned in life is that Dutch people hate to give a deal on anything. But Gary the Dutchman is going to let you use promo code SOR 2019, and you're going to get a discount on every purchase from Mighty Moose Beard Oil. Now, it's not just beard oil. It is fully natural. All right? My favorite, the Winter Blend right here. Winter Blend. Smells fantastic, and the one thing I love about it, you just drop it into your hands like so, that's it. Don't need too much, and you just massage it in. Just massage it in and take it carefully. That's it. That's done. But you still got all this on your hands, and you can just massage it into your hair. That's it. Massage it into your hair, And I'll tell you, it feels great, smells great. It's great for men, great for women. It's not just a beard oil. It is a hair oil overall. Go to MightyMooseBeard.com. All prices are in Canadian dollars. So if you pay like $20 American, it's like $6 Canadian, or $6 Canadian, or $20 American would be like $40 Canadian, something like that right now. Whatever the exchange is, it's horrible. Horrible for us. That's why we don't travel to the U.S. anymore. But MightyMooseBeard.com, check it on up. Tell Gary the Dutchman that you want that deal. He's going to grind his teeth, and because of all our Spaced Out Radio fans, he barely has any teeth left. All right, but he's going to give that to you. Use promo code SOR 2019 today, and tell Gary we sent you, and you're going to get a great product. All right, check it on out. All right, thanks, Walter. Appreciate that. All right. Smells great. I will say that. Did you click something on your microphone?
Yes, I did. I have a mute button here. And so while you were doing your spot, I muted it.
Well, there you go.
I love this microphone. It's a Yeti Nano. You know how the Yeti Blue is?
Yeah,
it's bigger. This is the Yeti Nano.
Can you? Oh, nice. It's a mini. Look at that.
It's like a small, like just
nice.
Like a device. And I love this little thing. And I'm telling you, big difference. People, when I got this mic and first started using it, people are like, "Oh my gosh, the audio is so much better." You know. So this was the best. I think it was just a couple of bucks under $100. I mean,
nice.
You know,
when I first started, I used the blue. Oh, what the hell is it called? Wasn't a Yeti. I forget what it was called. I loved the microphone. It was great, but then it developed a static in behind it. 1 second here. Big thank you to Mark, to Ozzy Ange, to Alicia, Michael, Mark, Ben, Jarhead, Andrew, Anthony, Chris, and Ed for the amazing super chats tonight. Really appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you to our wrenches out there who've done a magnificent job tonight in our chat room on YouTube. Much love. Here we go with hour 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for it tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Valahai. Valahai is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce author Walter Bosley. He has a great new book out called Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies, and we're glad to have him here. You can find that book on lulu.com. Walter, welcome back to the show.
Hey, looking forward to this. More good stuff to talk about.
Stewpot is asking right off the bat, what do you know about the whole Phil Schneider incident?
I've read the stuff that's out there that everybody's read. Of course, I have Alexander Bruce's book on it, and what I appreciate about her book was, talking with her personally after having read it, she wasn't somebody who was like really deep into the story, wasn't an advocate of either way. So she was really approached it as an objective journalist. And I have to say that all the things considered about it, even Phil Schneider's own testimony and various, things you can see out there, I found ultimately, the FBI documents on him in that situation that were released. I'm convinced that he was he had some mental health issues, and I don't think he was suicided. I don't think he was murdered. I think the poor man very tragically took his own life. I think there's been a lot of spin up, around that, claiming otherwise, but or maybe loved ones, having a hard time accepting, that. But that's what I think about the Phil Schneider issue is just, tragic mental health issue.
You know what, though? And normally I would agree with that, okay? Mm-hmm. But with what we have seen with the entire UFO narrative being played out, with the DNI report coming out and refusing to go back previous to 2004, all right, to me that opens up a lot of different conspiracy theories as to whether or not they are real. I think it puts into question about Bob Lazar. I think it puts into question about the Phoenix Lights. I think it puts into question everything from Roswell to whether or not Eisenhower met with aliens back in 1954. And I think all of that now is back on the table because we aren't getting a lot of the true stories and the information that follows along with that.
I'm coming from a different side of it. First of all, I don't see this report as that significant. To me, this report was not that big of a deal, and what it doesn't talk about, I see it, the opposite. I don't think it's a particular comment on, oh wow, since it didn't address those things and it didn't go back prior to 2004. No, it is what it is. It was what it was, and I don't think they ever intended it to be something to explain the history of. Now, people were expecting that. People got their expectations raised, but no, for me, that didn't give any legitimacy to Bob Lazar at all. For me, it really didn't change any of what I think about those things based on what we've learned and what research has been done. I don't think that report was significant.
I don't think the report was significant, but I think it opens up a lot of questions. From a journalistic point of view, to me, I look at when they stated in the report that they were not going to investigate anything previous to the 2004 Nimitz incident. I think what they are doing is they're still trying to cover up from the mainstream media and the ignorance of this subject, that they don't want the media to start asking questions about Roswell or Eisenhower or Phoenix or Bob Lazar or Phil Schneider or Paul Benowitz, for that matter.
Well, but also, just because they didn't address it doesn't mean that Phil Schneider's claims were true. Doesn't mean that Lazar's claims were true. The reason they don't want to talk about it could be because a lot more of it really can be explained by technology that was being pursued, and so therefore, and might still be in play. So therefore, that's why they're not talking about it. It's inferring too much. Their omission. I just think you got to be careful with what the omission suggests. And I think the omission in this case, in this report, has, in my opinion, everything to do with classified stuff. They just, and what I mean by classified stuff, I mean our own technology, not otherworldly stuff that they're just simply not going to talk about. Now, does that mean that I'm not saying there's not otherworldly? I'm not saying there's not ET. I've said that 1,000 times. Every time I talk about this, but I see it differently.
Why don't you believe Lazar?
Well, between the shenanigans about his educational claims. And I'm sorry, this business that, they went back and erased him, that's just nonsense. There would have been some evidence or some trace that somebody would have had, that he did not attend where he said or what he did. His claims about S4, you've had people that actually can be proven to have worked there that have said that's not at all what was there. You now have imagery that backs up the people that say that none of the stuff he claimed was there was there. The details, what there is to show that he was affiliated or employed at a site. You've got people that say they are able to explain it. That, well, no, he was just a guy who tested, indicators, and he was not some physicist or whatever. That it's just nothing other than if people are in wishful thinking, wanting his story to be so true. If you were to step out and let go of that wishful thinking, nothing he claims, it really adds up, to reality. I don't, and even the sport model that he talks about, his description of the flying saucer. Well, people have pointed out that was taken right out of, the Billy Meyer nonsense. The fake UFOs, flying saucers that Billy Myers, and his, what's that guy, Michael Horn, that's been pushing that crap. And the business with, the hand reader or whatever, this was a secret, sneaky deaky thing. And there it is depicted in a major motion picture in 1977, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the exact thing. And
Hi, I'm Liz Munoz, CEO of Torrid. And at Torrid, we know how hard it is to find a bra that looks great and feels super comfortable, especially if you're a bigger or curvy girl. So we have spent the last 2 years building the perfect everyday wire-free bra with the belief that it should feel as good as it looks. It gives all the support and shape you'll ever need without any of the wires. Honestly, it's the first bra you'll forget to take off when you go to bed. So come to Torrid.com and try our life-changing wire-free bra today.
Academy Sports and Outdoors has you covered from head to toe with the best from Adidas. From balls to backpacks and apparel to footwear, get a fresh Adidas look and gear up to get back to sports with Adidas at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Claim about Element 115, people have demonstrated how that was not exactly a secret thing that other people had not talked about before. So there's a lot of the stuff he claims, there was a public precedence, that he could have drawn this from. The obvious to me lies that he's told about his education, and it just, Lazar is a con man, and there's just a lot of people that just don't want to let it go because it's so much fun to just hang on to that. And then look at the people who are pushing it. I mean, look at Knapp and Corbell, who give us all sorts of reasons to question their judgment and what they do. It's just, I guess what it is the preponderance of evidence, against Lazar far outweighs any reason to believe him. And so that's where I'm at on him.
I'll politely challenge you on this in my most Canadian aspect.
Okay.
I look at it from a completely different angle, which is the journalistic angle.
Mm-hmm.
All right. KLAS TV has never retracted the story.
Okay.
Now, if you know how a newsroom works, you know that you just can't throw something like that on TV without proof. So I believe what happened was Knapp's editor would have gotten involved in that story and said, look, this sounds very, very sci-fi.
Uh-huh.
All right. What proof do you have?
Right.
What proof do you have? And Knapp, as a Cub reporter who had only been there 8 years at that time, would have had to provided some sort of proof outside of John Lear or Gene Huff, that Lazar was the real deal. Now, according to Knapp, if we go by his story, he had about 8 to 10 other people who were ready to go on the record and got shot down over that. But the fact that KLAS TV has never retracted the story 32 years later, and it's not about publicity or numbers or anything like that. It's about journalistic accuracy. All right?
Unless it was always considered a fluff piece to begin with. And, and I beg to differ with you. I think ratings had just as much to do with it as anything. Why do we dismiss the idea that ratings? Of course, ratings had something to do with it. And also, I would venture to say that I would want to go back and look at the reports because my degree's in journalism.
Yes.
So
so we can have a good talk about this.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If the disclaimers, if there's enough disclaimer in there, if there's enough, implication that this is this guy's story, and I'm sure, are you telling me that there was not any kind of disclaimer about the opinions and stuff expressed by someone on our news thing are not those of the network? I mean, they could still not retract the story, but yet that doesn't mean they're saying, well, then this is the God's honest proven truth. And the witnesses that were shot down, I would want to know the specifics of that, because my gut tells me, and my experience tell me, that there might have been a very good reason those witnesses were shut down and not used. So it's still...
Well, I mean, then you look at it too, okay? Shortly after all this happens, Lazar gets hired by Bob Bigelow. All right? And that, there was a lot of tension there. Bigelow has recently come out and stated that, there was no tension there in between the two, that because their company looking for the Element 115 had only lasted like 6-8 months. To me, it's a little bit ironic that all of a sudden the death threats stop as soon as Bigelow gets involved. The death threats against Lazar, if they were true, they stopped. But here's the other thing that was very convincing to me. Okay, you talked about his educational program and how whether or not one of the big debates is whether or not his education status got scrubbed. Now, we just saw that happening to Lou Elizondo at the Pentagon.
Did we?
Yes, where they were scrubbing emails of his being a part of ATIP.
Okay, that's a different thing.
Susan Goff had to answer for that. So
email, but emails that he wrote or that were written in the course of his duties on Pentagon government-owned computers.
But Susan Goff from the Pentagon had always been in denial about Elizondo's involvement, and therefore tried to scrub him.
Okay, but still, whatever happened with Susan Goff, whatever trouble she got into, these are apples and oranges. You're talking about emails, which are the intellectual property of the government because they're done in the course of, on a government computer in the course of government duties, okay? And they have the power, whether ultimately they violated a regulation, and the ability to get in there and scrub their own computers. To go to a civilian education institution and do some Men in Black, government spooky agent thing where, we want to clear your roles of this guy. But believe it or not, that's a different animal. That's a different thing. And, the other thing is, look at what has been able to be verified about his education. Look, there's reasons Bob Lazar has given us to not believe what he says.
Yes,
so
I agree with you.
He says
I agree with you on that.
But what the record shows is where, he went to this community college and stuff like that. And we're talking about Area 51. We're talking about, things to do with aerospace engineering, advanced engineering, and things like that. They try to bring the most brilliant minds and personnel in on this stuff. And I'm sorry, Bob Lazar ain't that brilliant. Now, to listen to him and George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, oh my God, he's the most amazing thing. But there's no one else of any authority or real knowledge backing that up. And the thing about the death threats, what's our source on that? Bob Lazar. So I'm sorry, you kind of, that has to be eliminated because he's the one claiming he was getting them. And then he's the one who claimed, they stopped. And then you have Bigelow. Okay. There's a lot of people that, Bob Bigelow is a successful businessman, but when I look at his body language, like in that one interview he was doing, what I see is a narcissist who just loved being talked about as the guy who knows something. And from my perspective, having been in the world of classified secrets and stuff like that, no matter how successful or useful Bob Bigelow was to any federal agency, he's not the guy that's going to know as much or the kinds of things that he implies through his bravado, and he never really, delivers on anything. So what you've got are these characters that are this or that you can verify, but what they're doing is they're making these claims and making these big implications that can't be in some cases, and some of the claims can't be disproven or can't be, approached at all. And what it is I think there's our public, our community, there's a lot of wishful thinking that they really want what these guys are implying or saying to be true. So they're willing to give these guys margin that they might not be willing, to give others, for very good reason that they don't give others. And part of the reason why people continue, I think, to believe is because Lazar just keeps being pushed at us. He had kind of gone away and people knew, okay. And then Corbell and Knapp, just kind of reinvigorate it because Corbell needs something for his narcissist circus, to put himself in the public eye. And that's what that's about. So, he chose the Lazar thing, I think, very shrewdly because he knew there's a lot of people out there that, would.
But so let's talk about Corbell for a second.
Uh-huh.
All right. If Jeremy Corbell was fake on the Bob Lazar story,
uh-huh.
why would someone within the Pentagon or the military or whomever release those videos to him that the Pentagon confirmed?
But
because
mm-hmm.
the last video that he put out, which mm-hmm. I think everybody realized was either helicopters or airplanes, okay, that last one, the Pentagon wanted nothing to do with it. Nothing. Yet the three previous, they were all on board at confirming that.
Okay. It depends on what the tactical or strategic agenda is for a public release of the materials. Now, this release, I know Corbell plays it up like, they came to him or they invited him and, Jeremy Corbell, you're the guy, we're going to give this to you. When really, when you look closer, it's just, it could have been anybody asking for this stuff or having spotlight on them. They're like, yeah, here you go. There's this. Or from the insider perspective, okay, we want to, here's the conversation in the Pentagon. We want to get some stuff out that the intended audience, the intended target of this, will actually understand what it is and get our message that we're trying to say. So what situation do we have, or who do we have that we can use to do this? Well, we got this Corbell guy. He's got a lot of people's attention in the UFO world. Okay, let's give it to him. Let him make whatever hay out of it he wants to. This kind of thing goes on where perception management and where, just what I described, when our DOD wants to put a message out there to other nations' DODs as to what we're dabbling in or what we might have, or the things that turn out to be something, not otherworldly. It could also be, we're tired of hearing from this guy. Let's give him some BS and, it'll make a fool out of him. It could be that too. There's nothing about Corbell getting these videos that I find, that changes my mind on that. And I've looked at the videos and I just shake my head. He's all hype. And, other people very calmly point out, well, no, look at the flashing light that's clearly FAA required, lights on an aircraft. Why would extraterrestrials need, to comply with the FAA? So, that's a big thing that, he seems to overlook. And
I will agree with you on that final video. On the final video, I would agree with you on that one.
So, yeah, I've looked at it. I went to the, I was there.
We have 45 seconds.
Okay. The LA screening of that Bob Lazar documentary he did, I was there when he screened that, and just, the middle section of the audience was, a bunch of his, huge fans, and the whole thing was them standing up, hey bro, dude, all right. And it was just, it was there like, oh my God, that's what this is. That's one example of what it's about. True. With him.
Walter, I will say this because being a journalist, I always get the final word on my show. I will say this. We still haven't figured out why UFOs have lights yet they seem to. So I'm going to end that on that. Walter Bosley, we got to do this again. I absolutely love you, and you're a lot of fun and a great, great respected researcher in this field. Thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight.
Thanks for having me on. This was a blast. Let's do it again.
Absolutely, my friend. We got to talk more about British Columbia off the record, too, so we got to get you up here. Walter's latest book, Secret Missions 5, Veiled Destinies, can be found on lulu.com, so make sure you go check it on out. Coming up next, we're going to join Shane and the Shift. We're going to go straight across Canada, and the news wire and the thought of the day. A jam-packed final half hour is next. Great job, man. Great job tonight. Thank you.
Oh, hey, thanks. Yeah, I enjoyed this.
Absolutely. And remember the stuff I told you prior to the show? I'm not going to say who, what, where, when, why. You checked out the website?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, I have more stuff on that.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we'll talk.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right, my friend.
Have a good night.
We'll talk soon. Take care.
Okay. All right.
Bye-bye. Hi. We're going to get a call from Shane in the Shift here momentarily. Let me just make sure I got everything set up. I just got to get Shirky Poo's news out here. Shirky Poo, where are you? There it is. And go there. Oh, I can't use that. Newsweek has me blocked because I've used too many of their stories. Yeah, let's go that one. All right, go there. And start off with that one. There we go. There's Shane. Hey, Vancouver.
Hello. Hi, this is Leo.
Hi, Leo. It's Dave.
Hi, Dave. How about that go? I'm the filling guy here. I'm not Brendan who's here every week. Are you on air too? Or
I'm on air too. So what'll happen is you're going to put me on hold, and then at about 35:20, what's going to happen is Shane's going to pot me up, and then we're going to run in, and he's got the segments all ready to go.
Okay. All right, Dave. Okay, I'm going to put you on hold then.
All right. Thanks, Leo. All right. That's Leo. He's new to the job. Doesn't know what the hell's going on. That's okay. We'll still like him. Good stuff. Blueberry. Forget what brand this is. I just got it today. Hey, it's keeping me in studio, which is cool. I'm okay with that. No, it starts with an A. I forget what it's called. It's got the charger right there. These little packets are supposed to last like 3 days. Hey, Zune, how are you? Or ex-uni? And it smells good. Smells really good. And for the record, a bunch of you keep asking, I don't smoke pot. I am not on the hippie lettuce. I'm not on the devil's salad, okay? Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't do it. I don't do it. Or the Saints cabbage, whatever you want to call it. Turn that down a little bit. Ravon is Ryan. How are you? I heard the new J.J. Abrams series absolutely slaughters ufology. All right, guys, let's get ready to go here. And here we go. Rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder, if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We're going to go live to Vancouver. Shane and The Shift on the Chorus Radio Network as we do this once a month hit with them. So that way we can fill them in on all the woo that is going on in the world. Shane, how you doing, man?
For us to hear the cue. He's good, buddy. SpacedOutRadio.com and Dave's show. I'm fantastic, brother. How are you hanging in there? The last time I chatted with you a couple of weeks ago, you were getting flamed out and smoked out up there in northern.
Man, and by the way, Shane, very classy of you to check in with me on the forest fires here in 100 Mile House, British Columbia, where we are located at SOR headquarters. The good news is the town and my area is no longer under any evacuation alert or orders, and we really got through a close one there. Real close one. That was a big fire. I mean, you think 62,000 hectares is, I think, the equivalent.
Raising Cane's is celebrating 25 years. That means 25 years of serving over 2.5 billion cooked-to-order chicken finger meals. And 25 years of saying drive-through rhymes. Lots and lots of times. Oh, and 25 years of the same mascot. Okay, different mascots with the same name. And 25 years of serving our communities. Thanks for making us your chicken fix since way back in '96. Raising Cane's, 25 years, one love.
What am I doing with this paper shredder? Well, now that C Spire offers no contract, $45 unlimited plan, I don't need to hold on to all these contracts. We're going to need a bigger paper shredder. Keep your number, skip the contract. With no contract, $45 unlimited. Terms and conditions apply. See cspire.com/no contract for plan details.
Of something like 6,000 football fields. 6,000 NFL football fields. It's incredible.
It's settled now for you, Dave? I mean, I was in Salmon Arm last weekend, and the smoke was quite dreadful. But now the Kamloops fire and then the one that's just west of Kelowna, kind of that sort of pocket, plus the Sycamoose fire, those ones were quite close and quite dense. But has it settled for you?
Yeah, so far so good. We haven't had smoke in the air here in like 4 days. And I think everybody in my town, their lungs are actually starting to come back to normal and feel pretty darn good. You know, you walk around town, and it's funny because everybody is hacking and wheezing still from the forest fire smoke. And, we're getting over that. We got clean air coming on in.
That's really cool. I noticed that when I left, it probably took 2.5 days, maybe 3 days before the vocal cords got back to normal. I could feel it. Like the thing about people don't understand about forest fire smoke is it's, like you can feel it leaving your lungs. Like you can taste it still. It's very strange.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you, I could go another year without it. That is for sure.
Yeah. Let's hope you go a few years, too. Dave Scott, spacedoutradio.com. The reason why we're here is to chat about the world of the woo, the UFOs, which is UFOs, and ufology, as the young kids call it. Dave, where are we going today? We got lots to get caught up on, buddy. It's been a few weeks.
Well, first off, we are going to start with the passing of former Minister of Defense in Canada, the Right Honourable Paul Hellyer. Now, this is a gentleman who was first elected into Canadian Parliament in 1949. He passed away this past weekend at the age of 98. So what does he have to do with UFOs? Well, after his tenure in government back in the early 2000s, he started looking into ufology. And he had heard some rumors and some stories. He really didn't believe it. Ended up talking to a couple of generals, both in Canada and the United States, and realized that there was something to this. And that sparked his interest in learning about UFOs. And at one point, he was the highest-ranked politician in the world to come out and speak that UFOs are real, that they are already here, and that governments like Canada and the United States are in contact with extraterrestrial species. Now, he never got much legs talking about it politically on this end, but we also have to remember that in 1967, when he was trying to merge the Canadian Armed Forces from separate Army, Navy, and Air Force, there were 3 major incidents that happened. 2 with UFOs. We have the Falcon Lake incident back in May of 1967, and then after Trudeau and Trudeau's Liberals were ousted in the fall election of 1967, 3 weeks later, the Shag Harbor incident happened. The third incident, which really isn't an incident, it was more a publicity stunt, was in St. Paul, Alberta. To commemorate Canada's 100th anniversary, he actually opened a UFO landing pad that is still there today, saying Canada accepts everybody from everywhere, and basically invited the aliens to come down. Now, I disagreed with Mr. Hellyer publicly, in very polite ways, where I said, look, I think you're hiding things. I think you knew what was going on, but when you were in power. And he claims that he didn't, but this was a man who had many secrets, and now we have to wait and see if his vault will open up, and hopefully his family does that, because it would be very interesting to see what comes out on the UFO front.
This gives some context of how this guy is, like his lineage. He started in politics in the 40s. Like, that's how long this guy was around. He also had his private pilot's license, so he flew when he began in all this. And so he's been around an awful lot of things. Now, you were speaking about the UFO landing pad. Are you talking about St. Paul?
Yes.
Wow, really? That was him, hey?
Yes, that was him.
St. Paul, Alberta. I've driven by it many times. Yeah, what an interesting piece. Okay, so this guy, he's old, he passes away, and so what does it leave? Does it leave a hole in ufology in Canada?
Well, I think it does, and I think the sad part about it is there hasn't been a Canadian politician who has followed suit outside of Hellyer. Now, Hellyer, for his entire career, was known as a brazen hellraiser. He had some very drastic ideas, much like combining the Canadian Armed Forces, which we see today. And, he was very much into, later on in life, discussing and writing about the Illuminati and the corrupt banking system, saying that they're just there to screw the people of the world, and in Canada as well. And, his thoughts were always, a little off kilter from the norm, but a lot of people appreciated that because he was a very brilliant man. And, I have on email him stating that a couple of really cool, interesting tidbits about UFOs. Number one, that he believes that the Canadian government has been in contact with 2 different extraterrestrial species. He didn't go into further detail on that, but he believed that that was happening. And number 2, he believes that there is a board of people in Ottawa where they meet. Nobody really knows. It could be in the Transportation Safety Board's offices that get together to discuss the UFO topic and what it pertains to Canada. Now, this could be highly, highly top secret. He believes the RCMP are involved in that group, which we know, and we have found out that the RCMP, when you report a UFO to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, that immediately that report goes to headquarters in Ottawa, who immediately shifts it to NORAD in the United States, who dispatches the closest 2 CF-18s to try and intercept the craft. The interesting part for all Canadians, and I'm sure I'll remind you of this because we talked about it a long time ago, is that when you file a report with the RCMP, what do you do, Shane? You give your name, your phone number, your email address, your place of residence. You give them everything, including the color of your cats and dogs. Guess where that information goes?
I was going to say you wait on hold, actually. That's what you do. But
yes, but the fact is, what happens is when they send that report to NORAD, now the American government and military has your information.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. My opinion, anybody listening on your end, if you see a UFO, do not call the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. If you see a UFO on the ground, do not call the police. Okay? Call somebody in ufology. Give Dave a call here. We'll figure it out.
SpacedOutRadio.com. So as a guy who studies this, lives inside of it, is it a little bit heartbreaking that all those secrets go with him?
Well, this is the big thing we got to hope for. Okay, and I know a couple people, Grant Cameron and Victor Vigiani, Canadian UFO researchers, and Victor, who was on our program last night talking about the passing of Paul Hellyer, and they were very close. And Victor actually put out the funeral services for Mr. Hellyer. That'll be coming up later this week. But they were saying that they are going to be talking to the family about trying to see if they will, in fact, release his data, much like what happened when the late Stanton Friedman passed away. And previous to him passing away, he donated all of his records, his books, his notebooks, his scrolls, his computer programs, and everything from floppy disk to hard drives to the University of New Brunswick. And they are hoping that happens in Toronto, either at the University of Toronto or York University. And they are hoping that there will be files regarding UFOs in regards to that. Now it's a wait-and-see approach to see whether or not the family will release that information.
Oh, that's interesting. You don't ever really think about the the Rubbermaid totes in the basement that could be kicking around, right?
Well, from what we know of Mr. Hellyer, he was very astute with taking notes and taking his information. One thing we do have to worry about, and one of our listeners brought it up in our chat room last night, which I posed to our panel on that we did about Paul Hellyer, is will the Canadian government want to go through those files in case there are notes that are top secret?
Interesting. All right, well, that's keep us updated as those things unroll, because there's going to be hopefully some things to be found there, as we always say. Maybe somebody will share it and find a little bit of inspiration to be able to share those things with Canadians, because that would be really great. And I love the advice about your personal information getting shared, whether you know it or not. So I guess that's a thing. Where are we going next year? Because I purposefully did not dig into our next topic here, because there's another UFO topic. I didn't want to get any spoiler information about UFOs, because UFOs are incredibly popular right now. Thanks social media, I think, for it. It's got its own bit of a trend that's kind of, excuse the pun, taking off.
Well, there's a lady on TikTok, and we've reported on this, and we're calling her the UFO lady on TikTok. No, her name really doesn't matter because we don't want to give too much attention to her. And there's a lot of clickbait that's been going on social media, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, or any of these social media sites where you can post videos on whether or not these videos are real. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame, and more so the clicks, because clicks equals followers, and when you become trending, so to speak, people follow you, and who doesn't love seeing their follow count go up? Maybe leads to a blue check mark that we all dream of. I know, I don't know, do you have a blue check mark on Twitter yet?
No, they said I wasn't popular enough.
Yeah, I know the feeling. So anyways, moving on from that, this lady down in the U.S. was walking in her back 40 and came across this metal, it looks like the roof of an old water tower. Well, she claimed it was a UFO. She has now made 3 different videos on this saying, what could it be, public? It looks like a UFO. What could this opening on the top mean? Well, normally it's a door, but this is the type of stuff we have to deal with on a daily basis in the field of ufology. And this is what really brings the field's credibility down. When you have people who are going on there, it's a blatant door to a water tank or something along those lines that has flown off the ground. But here she is making videos about this being a UFO. And it's just, honestly, it is very disappointing that we even have to discuss this, because the amount of clickbait, CGI, and everything that is out there that is making fun or mocking people who have had real experiences is really a downer for those who have had those experiences, been traumatized by those experiences, and just want some answers. And yet we have TikTok lady, begging for clicks and begging for follows.
Isn't it good, though, to share I get what you're saying. First of all, I don't want to diminish that. But isn't it good to just create awareness and get people thinking about it's even possible? Because that is one of those things that is even possible. That doesn't cross people's minds all the time. Well,
it is and it isn't. I mean, anytime the subject is brought up, it's a good thing, But when you're dealing with something that is begging for truth, is begging for popularity, is begging for recognition, whether it's people who have seen a UFO in the sky, or if you take it a step further, people who claim that they have been abducted or had some sort of extraterrestrial contact, this is where it gets to the emotional part. Because if you listen to the stories and if you believe the stories of the people who have had interaction with extraterrestrials, some of these situations are not very kind. Some of them are very enlightening. And all those people want is some sort of respect and recognition that they, A, are not nuts, B, are telling the truth, and C, just want somebody to believe them. So when you have somebody coming in who is creating CGI videos of UFOs hovering over somewhere in China, and here they are, look, the mainstream media is not telling you about this, or share this before it gets taken down. You see any of those, it's BS right off the bat. And all that does is harm the hard work that a lot of researchers have done, and mainly it harms the people who have had some very traumatic experiences where they just want answers to, because their lives have been affected by this phenomena.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense. I didn't think of it that way. Dave Scott, thank you very much for the time and the insight. We could probably spend a whole segment just talking about the deep fakes in and around UFOs and how that is getting in the way. Maybe something for us to keep in mind next time we get a chance to chat. It's great to hear your voice, brother, and I'm glad things are starting to settle for you guys up there.
Shane, thank you very much for everything you do to help promote Spaced Out Radio. There are people out there who believe that we are not on terrestrial radio. You are proof that we are.
Thank you very much. Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio.
All right, let's get to the news, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire. at the back end of every show where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the unbelievable. Yeah, this one. I don't know if I would be proud of this. A Canadian woman unofficially set a Guinness World Record when she completed a 100-meter run in 22.99 seconds while running on all fours like a horse. 38-year-old Julie McCann of Vernon, which is about 4 hours south of me, ran on her hands and feet at the Greater Vernon Athletics Park and finished well under the 25-second goal mandated by Guinness World Records. McCann, who has been running on all fours since she was 3 years old, always wanted to be a horse apparently, said she was inspired to pick up her hobby again and attempt to set the world record in the women's category after reading about Kenichi Ito of Japan, who set the men's version record at 15.71 seconds back in November 2015. I just gave birth to my third child, my little girl, and I thought this would give me the motivation to get into being active again. Oh, that's kind of cool. And more than anything else, I want to prove to myself that I can run like a horse. I could do it in my 20s, but could I do it in my 30s? Guess what? Damn it, she did it. McCann said the video and witness reports from her record attempt are being submitted to Guinness World Records for official recognition of the fastest female horse runner. Can we say that? Well, we just did. A series of posts on TikTok have gone viral after they revealed a Florida resident's huge Amazon delivery. While it's not unusual for people to get a large number of packages delivered, this one hit a whole new level. Why? TikTok user Cassie5616, if you want to follow her, posted the video to her account, which shows a mountain of boxes outside of her apparent neighbor's house. The boxes stacked up nearly the top of a single-story house and were several rows deep. Since uploading the footage, it has been viewed more than 2.6 million times. Of course it has. Another TikTok user, Tierra Lopez, who said that she's Cassie's daughter, also shared the video of the massive delivery, which has been viewed 1.2 million times. Who cares how many times it's been viewed? Yeah, Lopez wrote that she went outside to smell the roses when she noticed a massive pile of boxes. She captured the video only in Florida. Since then, both accounts have uploaded further videos because, we need more videos of the boxes. We need more clicks. We need more likes. In the most recent update, a moving van was spotted outside the house. It appears the boxes were being loaded in. Oh my gosh, what is happening to those boxes? Let's get to the thought of the day. What needs to change for ufology to move forward from where we are now? Eric, it needs to go from a business to an academic study. Catherine, the greed of the front of the pack needs to go. To control the narrative tends to be lucrative. Marty, public U.S. congressional hearings. Scott, more ufology, less mythology. Michael, Brazil's disclosure in 2011 was amazing. Ton of information. I wonder what they released since then. Craig, get rid of the grifters, charlatans, and YouTube hoaxers. Kevin, Craig Labidi said grifters. Oh, yeah. Joe, I'll save Joe's for last. Danny, UFO to mean unidentified flying object and not immediately extraterrestrial. John, we have to constantly demand government and military disclosure. We want truth. Yeah, we'll go to Joe. What it needs is for a giant mothership to land outside of Vegas where everyone can see it. Dr. Michael P. Masters gets the final word. We need more breakfast for dinner. No, we don't, Dr. Michael. No, we don't. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Day. We will do it all again tomorrow. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the SOR Newswire, Shane at the Shift on the Chorus Radio Network for hooking us on up, and of course to Walter Bosley for being a wonderful guest tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be, and to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, and on Twitter. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, tell him Chad Smith sent you. Good night.
Raising Cane's is celebrating 25 years. That means 25 years of serving over 2.5 billion cook-to-order chicken finger meals. And 25 years of saying drive-thru rhymes. Lots and lots of times. Oh, and 25 years of the same mascot. Okay, different mascots with the same name. And 25 years of serving our communities. Thanks for making us your chicken fix since way back in '96. Raising Cane's, 25 years, one love.
Got an occasion that's worth celebrating? Well, nothing says celebration like flowers from ProFlowers. Surprise your special someone with brilliant bouquets starting at just $19.99 plus shipping and handling. Yes, top quality, fresh from the farm blooms that are perfect for any and all occasions are only $19.99 for a limited time at proflowers.com. Don't wait till the last minute to send that anniversary or birthday surprise. Shop proflowers.com and make their day with a bright bouquet. See website for details.